longer for me than you. Well, depending on when I put my next review up, definitely have taken a step back, and I have not posted at all. It is January for me. I have not posted at all since the beginning of December. Things are going on with me, and I've really been considering putting a halt to this channel. But you know what? I'm just a sucker for pain. I'm a masochist. I can't stay away. Today's book is Book Lovers, which of the three is my favorite. I read Big Beautiful Life and adored it. So I said, oh, let's give her some more chances, especially because I'm looking for comp titles. The other two are A Million Junes and Beach Read. And I gotta tell you, A Million Junes is in a category of its own. But after reading Beach Read, Book Lovers, and then Happy Place, I realized this woman has a formula, and the formula is enemies to lovers, and that's totally fine. Absolutely. I just wish she were a little less by the book, because by the time I got to Happy Place, I just couldn't take it anymore. And my main issue is that we're introduced to the male love interest, and they are absolute mortal enemies, which is fine. The problem comes in where almost immediately they are no longer mortal enemies. For instance, in this book, the main character's name is Nora. Her mortal enemy is Charlie Lastra. And Nora is an agent. Charlie is an editor. At one point, she brings him a book by her best-selling client, Dusty, and she says, "What do you think?" And he's like, "I hated it. I think it was terrible." And of course, she stands up for the book. His main issue is really about the setting, which is a place called Sunshine Falls. She does not know why he hates it so much, but he does. We re-encounter him, and her sister Libby has said, let's go out of town for a month. The place that Libby wants to go is Sunshine Falls. When there, we re-encounter Charlie. Turns out he's from Sunshine Falls, which is why he hated it so much, because it's such a misrepresentation of his hometown. Nora walks into a bookstore. She sees him. No, coffee shop. And she sees him. And she's just like, it's one or the other. It doesn't really matter. I think she encounters him twice, actually. And she sends him like really flirty text messages. And then from there, they're just best buds. Like there's a little bit of tension, but there's no problems. And we see this in Big Beautiful Life. We see this in Happy Place. We see this in A Million Junes. And we see this in Beach Read, where even though they're supposed to hate each other, they have witty banter, and then from then on, there are no problems. And then, obviously, the couple falls in love. And I couldn't handle that book after book after book. You might be able to handle it, but I can't, which is why I probably will not read any more Emily Henry. And it really got me when I was reading Happy Place, because the couple, which I'm not going to do a review on Happy Place, because at this point, I said I'm done. So the couple is pretending to still be together, but they are not, because they just don't know how to tell their friends. The friend group, one of the people has this house that they like to go to. It is the girl's turn to go to this house. Turns out, well, he's there too, because the dad is going to be selling this house. So last summer at this house, just to make matters worse, we're going to put the estranged couple in the big room with the big bed, or rather the small room with the twin beds. Okay, great. We got some tension set up. Like, this is what we want. We want them to be back together. But instead of somebody sleeping on the floor and somebody sleeping in the bed, they're both gonna sleep in the bed. So instead of putting pillows between them, they're just not. And then you wake up and they're all cuddled up together, and it just, there is no tension. So that is my big issue with Emily Henry and formulaic writing. Obviously it works for her, but after a while it did not work for me. But that is a huge lead up into Book Lovers, which I would say, aside from Big Beautiful Life, has been my favorite, but I feel like Big Beautiful Life isn't as commercial fiction as these, isn't as romance as these. The focus is not necessarily on the romance between the female main character and the male main character. It's really more about the history that we are learning from the woman that they are both interviewing. From this side of her genres, I like Book Lovers. I thought it was really cute. And let's get into it. So, as I said, Nora, Charlie, Libby. Nora and Libby are exceptionally close. They were raised by a single mother, and this single mother was a dreamer. So they didn't have a lot. The mother moved them to New York so she'd get her big break. She never quite got her big break, and they were pretty broke. They were kind of destitute, which means that Nora sacrificed a lot. She sacrificed a lot of her childhood in order to support her mother, in order to take care of her sister. The mother dies when Libby is in high school, which means that Nora had to put her dreams on pause. And her dream was to be a book editor. So because she couldn't pursue that, she found herself being an agent. She's a really good agent, and as I previously mentioned, she has this exceptionally famous client named Dusty Fielding. Dusty had written that book Once in a Lifetime, which Charlie hated, but it was an extremely big seller. However, the problem is Dusty has not been delivering her latest book. She has been stalling, has not given her chapters, so they're trying to figure out, what's going on with her. Libby says to Nora, let's go out of town for the month of August. Libby is married. She married her high school sweetheart. She has 2 kids with 1 on the way. They get to Sunshine Falls, and Libby's like, I've got a bucket list for us to do. And this bucket list includes wear a flannel shirt, have a makeover, build something, bake something, go on 2 dates, skinny dip, sleep under the stars, attend a town function, ride or pet a horse, because Nora's like, I'm not riding a horse. Start a fire, hike, and then save a local business. Slight spoiler, they do accomplish, or at least Nora accomplishes, this entire list in one form or another. While she's in Sunshine Falls, she finally gets the first chapters of Dusty's new book. And she is absolutely appalled because the main character in this book, the shark, is basically a copy and paste image of Nora. And Nora's like, there's no way that I'm like that. She'd already talked to Charlie, who had referred to her as a shark, and so she's just not flattered. She really hates the fact that this character is a direct representation of her. She and Charlie, though, decide to collaborate on this book. While they are collaborating, he reveals, so he is in Sunshine Falls because his dad has failing health. So he has come to take over their bookstore, at least help run their bookstore, Good Books, because their last name is Good. His is not, but theirs is. He and Nora have this little conversation. She's like, does your job know that you are working remotely? And he's like, sort of. He eventually reveals that he has decided to leave his position because he needs to stay on full time to help out with this bookstore, because apparently his sister is not going to come through and help out, which that is something that slightly bothers me in books, where why is it okay for a sibling to not follow through? Why is it okay for one sibling to have to bear the burden and then another sibling can just live their life the way they want? I think his sister is off in Italy because his mom is an artist, had gone to Italy for some kind of, I don't know, study abroad or whatever, and now his sister's turn, and I guess she's met somebody and they're gonna get married, and so she's just gonna stay there. And I'm like, that really bugs me, especially because, at least in this situation, Charlie seems to have no qualms about it. And I'm like, we would have a sit-down convo, because there was an agreement. You said you were gonna be here, and now you're not. And now this guy is just gonna let it go. I guess that's the difference between he and I. I'm petty. But he says, I'm gonna leave my job, and I think you should have it, which Nora's pretty excited about because this is what she's always wanted. But obviously, we have to go through the rest of the book. She has to go through all of her challenges. She and Charlie do make a bet in regards to her completing this bucket list. And if she wins, she gets his apartment for Libby and Libby's family. Because one thing that Libby and her husband have been struggling with is being able to afford living in New York. They live in a super small apartment with all these kids, another one on the way, and there's no way they'll be able to find something they can afford that will actually fit their family. So Nora thinks this is the perfect solution for Libby. And around the same time that Charlie tells Nora about his job situation, we've been getting little hints about Libby and her marriage to Brendan. How it was all sunshine and roses, but Nora is concerned that something is not right. She gets the impression that they're actually going to be getting a divorce, so she's really worried. But even before all of this, she has mentioned that she and Libby are not communicating the same way, that she misses the bond that they used to have. But she and Libby just for some reason have not been talking. So she does feel removed from her sister and left out of important things in her sister's life. She has tried to address these things with Libby, but Libby brushes it off and doesn't really broach the subject. So around the time that this whole Charlie thing happens, Libby reveals that she and Brendan are actually moving to Sunshine Falls. This absolutely rocks Nora's world because what is she gonna do without her sister nearby? Because Sunshine Falls is in North Carolina. So she just doesn't know what she's gonna do. She's not really happy about it. Libby was hoping that this trip to Sunshine Falls would either sway Nora to coming with them or at least sway her to the idea of them moving there. Eventually, Libby decides to persuade Nora to take the job in New York. Nora and Charlie have another conversation where we already knew that he was going to stay, and Nora isn't interested in a long distance relationship. Actually, what I really loved was the way that this book opened, which was her latest relationship imploding, because if we liken it to a Hallmark movie, she's the high-powered girlfriend in the big city, and he's the guy who goes off to the ranch in Texas, and he falls in love with the rancher's daughter after a week, and then comes and breaks up with his high-powered girlfriend. So that's what happened with her latest relationship, and she has just kind of had a string of relationships where they haven't worked out for those very same reasons, where she's just never the one. She's like the villain significant other in a certain way. She decides to take the job. Libby and Brendan move their family to Sunshine Falls. She does go through with the whole list, as I said, but now it doesn't matter if she wins the apartment or not because her sister and family aren't going to be there. And then kind of like, I don't know, last chapter, sorry, it's been a minute since I've read this book. I just briefly refreshed my memory, but I wasn't planning on doing a review, so I didn't take any notes in the immediate aftermath of reading the book. But either last chapter or an epilogue chapter, we learn that Charlie's dad is getting better. Libby has volunteered to take over the bookstore, so he's going to come back to New York and he's planning on proposing. I just thought it was really cute. This is very Gilmore Girls coded in my opinion, where it's kind of small town fun and things that you would even get from a Hallmark movie, which I hate Hallmark movies. We all know that. But it worked here. I thought it was super realistic. There was one thing with Charlie. When Nora and Libby first get to Sunshine Falls, and obviously she has this bucket list, one of which is that she has to go on 2 dates. And she keeps seeing this really hot guy everywhere. And it turns out this hot guy, his name is Blake, he is actually Charlie's cousin. And Charlie has felt some sort of rivalry with Blake, whether or not Blake feels it or not. I don't know. Because Charlie believes that Blake is the son his father always wanted. Turns out that Charlie's dad isn't actually his dad, but that his mother had gone to New York. Her artwork had gotten discovered. She had a show. She ends up sleeping with either the guy who's running the show or just some other dude that was there. That is Charlie's dad. I believe his dad knew about it or whatever, but he just never felt good enough for his dad because he was more of a city slicker, more of a builder, whereas the dad was more of like a country boy who, you know, not necessarily farms, but does more down home things. And I thought that was a really interesting backstory point, something that gave Charlie a little bit of meat. It was a good book. Totally recommend it. I know this is not my normal type of review. It's not super in-depth, but I think we all appreciate that because it has kept it short. We will be moving into the other two, but I would love to know what you think about this book or what you think about Emily Henry in general. Do you agree with me that she's a little too formulaic, or is that just my cynicism when it comes to romance? Can't wait to hear what you think, and have a great day.